to the Kennedy Events Podcast, where we feature top marketing, communications, and future of work leaders and share their biggest takeaways and insights. We love these conversations and hope you will too. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Kennedy Events Podcast. I'm your host, Paige Buck. Past guests include Pam Perez of the Chase Center, Julie Liu of AvePoint, and Kim Alpert of Udemy. And today I am delighted to be speaking with Meg Fazy, founder of Events GI, the talent marketplace for the events industry, and Phase Forward, a premier sponsorship management company that works with clients to reveal opportunities and develop forward-thinking solutions to their sponsorship marketing. She has 30 years under her belt in the meeting industry, and in addition to her two businesses, which she's owned 7 years and one for 2 years respectively, she is a competitive dragon boat racer. Amazing. Before I dive in with Meg, today's episode is brought to you by Kennedy Events. Kennedy Events creates stress-free conferences and events, providing expert management and design for all your corporate event needs, from in-person to hybrid and virtual. You can learn more about us at kennedyevents.com. All right, well, we have to start with dragon boat racing. Meg, how did you come by that and what's that like?
So I'm always happy to talk about dragon boat racing, and I will get off on tangents. So, stop me because I love it so much.
I'll really back in. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it came up, it started because I'm a 3-time breast cancer survivor. And it is, believe it or not, it was a doctor in Canada studied great exercises for survivors, and he deemed dragon boat as like one of the best exercises. So it's big in the breast cancer world, dragon boating. And Philadelphia, where I'm from, just happens to have the first ever in the US dragon boat team called Hope Afloat. And I had just come out of a bunch of chemo and surgeries and things like that. And I just wasn't sure what my body could do. And so I joined this breast cancer team and, pretty figuring it would be, comforting. And within a year, I realized I'm way more competitive than I thought I was. And they were super supportive women and great. And they got me healthy and they got me strong. But it was time for me to go to a non-breast cancer team. And I tried out for the women's competitive team in Philadelphia, got on, and I've been on for 11 years. And we have traveled all over the world. We've been to Hungary and Romania and Prague and Paris and you name it. And it is great. It got me out of the house at the end of the day. It got me out in nature. It got me strong. I have a team of women supporting me. I support them. I just love everything about it.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was a momentary deep dive into something I really only know on a surface level. Hadn't appreciated how massive it must be in the world. I think I take for granted being here in the Bay Area. We have such a deep and broad sense of Asian culture here that it was much smaller and only big here and in a few other key cities. But no.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we probably have 1,000 paddlers on the river in Philadelphia. We have probably 12 teams. Yes, we probably have 12 teams, and Philadelphia's river is the longest, straightest rowing river in the country. So it's, yeah.
Okay,
so
another fun fact I learned today.
We house the high school and the college rowing regattas every year. And so, it's a natural progression for us to have kayakers and paddle boarders and dragon boaters and outrigger canoes and all of it on the river.
And all those crazy people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm half a mile from a place where there's sculling frequently in the morning, and the dragon boaters are in our marina, which is a spitting distance from my house. And when I'm at the marina working on my sailboat, the kids sometimes go by because they're really just the basics. And it's really fun to watch.
It is fun. And, I'm on an all women's team and it's very supportive, and we have all ages. Our youngest is like 32. We have a group of older women who are in their mid 70s, who are just these strong role models that are crazy women, that you just have to love and adore. So it's great.
And you need that in your life. That is amazing.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna shift us back to the world of events, but I'm gonna. I feel like
I told you I could talk about it for a while.
We're going to find some magical moments where that relates. I swear it does. So how did you have a long career in the events industry at large? How did you get started, and how did you move from the type of work you were doing into sponsorship management and now staffing and resourcing?
So I've been in the industry for over 30 years. I have always been in sales and marketing. That was the continuity through all my jobs. But I was very interested in the entire events industry, not just one segment. So I've worked for CVBS, hotels, industry association, event technology. When I was with hotels, I worked conventions, suburban, resort, casino. So I really wanted to, learn the entire market, and event marketing was a big part of kind of where I landed. And then sponsorship was something that when I was looking to start my own business just made sense to me for two reasons. First, from a customer standpoint, I thought there was a niche there that I could create a strong company, because for two reasons. One, it needed to be elevated. The sponsorship world needed to be elevated past, do you want to buy a pen? Do you want to buy a booth? It needed to have the conversation of
stress ball.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. I sell very little tchotchke stuff. But it needed to be elevated to, not a la carte items, but marketing opportunities. These, events are like the number one marketing opportunity a company has. So sponsorship is part of that. And so it is a business reason, and it needed to be, I thought it needed to be elevated. So, and with my background in customer service and, in hotels as supplier and convention centers and all that, I thought that I could combine the two and create an opportunity where sponsorship really meant something within organizations.
So your business model includes not just like, we will sell your sponsorships, but structuring that package and also consulting the client on.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact,
in
fact, I don't like to just sell, because I don't know what I'm selling. Is it going to sell? Does it have value? So I work with the organization and to create a prospectus that, in my words, kind of has meat on the bone. So it's not 85 different items. It may only be 20 items, but they are items of value to those sponsors. So I find out who the sponsors are, what their needs are, what the organization's needs are, and we create a prospectus that matches both. And so when it comes time to sell, it's an easy sell because I'm offering them value and not just a lot of stuff. It's easy to say, well, we can sell this and we can sell that, we can sell that. But really, where's the value? What do they want to buy?
There's two things that leap to mind when you say that. And the first is, I'm thinking of that reality restaurant show called Hell's Kitchen, where Gordon Ramsay is like coming in and doing triage on family business things. And they always go from one of those like multi-page laminated menus to a single piece of cardstock with like less is more, drill down the basics and what you do best. And the second is, I'd really love to understand, and I'm sure anybody listening would as well, how some examples of like something you would discard from that multi-page laminated menu. Like what makes for something that has meat on the bones?
So I think that first thing that organizations like to do is throw logos everywhere. And I think once you start to put, 50 logos on a conference bag, it dilutes the whole sponsorship, right? So I would have one sponsor. I do that kind of thing. I would get rid of, I don't want to say too much because some of my friends own promotional product companies, but I'm not a big promotional product person unless it's driving value, unless it's connected to something that the sponsor is already marketing. I'll give you an example. I worked with a sponsor this morning that they're interested in buying a coffee cart for their booth. And the reason they're interested in it is because part of their advertising has to do with coffee. And it's not that they're selling coffee, but they kind of set up their product as a coffee bar and come, and meet it. So to me, that makes sense, right? So it's the marketing has to connect. I'll sell pens all day long if they make sense,
Yes.
if they are connected somehow with the sponsor's marketing goals.
Mm-hmm. And so I imagine there's that like more is more. Let's just like throw anything at the wall, see what sticks. But if you can
Right.
drill it down to its essentials, it's going to hook people more. What else do you
Right.
think? What else do you think your clients, when they first engage with you, need education or alignment on before?
Yeah,
you
there's
sort of
actually
step
quite
them
a
in
bit
faith?
because, there's quite a bit because I think organizations are used to, we had a lot of really good years and everyone was going to events and everyone was sponsoring and buying this and buying that. And now they have to look at it a little bit more strategically. Not that they didn't before, but even more so now, because sponsors are very picky now where they're putting their money and how much money they're putting in. So it's really about, when I work with organizations, they're hiring me because they need help pricing. They need help creating, a prospectus of value, and they want someone who knows how to speak to a sponsor and have those marketing conversations. So I never ask, what is your budget? Or do you want to buy? It is, what are your goals and objectives? And, how do we help match them? And so those are the conversations that we have.
I'm wondering whether sponsors ever come to you to evaluate other programs to help you identify where their money can best be spent.
So they do, but I have to be careful with that because I work with a lot of the organizations. So I try not to get in too deep with that. So I may work with 3 different companies that are cybersecurity companies. I may be working with 3 different banks. I may be, so I'm very careful on not getting too deep into comparison events.
Good point. That's important.
Yeah.
I think you also mentioned when we first met that some of your clients need an education on who should be doing the selling.
Yeah. So it's interesting. A lot of times I'll be asked to speak with an event organizer, and I find out that the partners have been selling the partner managers have been selling to their partners. And it works in a lot of organizations, but I will say that in my experience, it doesn't work well in most organizations. And I'll tell you why. If I'm selling $1 million programs, $1 million packages, making $1 million deals with company ABC, for me to go to them and say, do you want to sponsor at 40,000, at 25,000, at 50,000, whatever it is? And they say, well, we'll do it, but we want a discount. Of course, I'm going to say, yes, I'll give you a discount. You just spent $5 million with me. Or, a company ABC may want to be a platinum sponsor, but really their business really isn't worth that. How does a partner manager, you don't want to put your partner managers in those situations where they have to have that conversation with their partners. Let me have that conversation. Let me deliver it in a way, where I can say, I'm sorry, we don't have any platinums available, but we do have this, and I can guide them into different packages without causing any challenges. So it is easier for me to sell to the partners than it is for the partner managers. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want them involved. When I work with an organization, when we are setting up the sales process, first thing I say is, I will work with your partner managers any way they want me to. I will be part of their call. I will make the call myself. I will keep them involved in emails. They can do an introduction. They can be involved in any way. It just makes it easier for them if I can be the one that guides their partner into a package that makes sense for the organization.
Oh, and they're so lucky to have you, because some companies can't or won't come to you for services, or are too small for the sort of services that you're offering. And then that relationship gets really funky.
Right. Because I just had it yesterday where I had a company who wants to buy a platinum, And so they weren't on my original partner list. I checked with the organization. They said, yes, they can sponsor. I went to them and said, to the organization, I went back to them and said, they want a platinum. And they said, no, they're not platinum worthy. So I have to go back and tell them, I'm sorry, we just sold the last platinum or whatever. I'm going to tell them I don't mean to lie to them, but at the same time, I don't want to be the one to say you're not worthy. It's not my place.
Yes.
So just to kind of let them down and put them in the right tier and get them in the right package.
You were talking before about, this economic moment where companies are being more choosy than once they were. What else have you seen change, and what trends do you see might be coming down the pipe?
Yeah. It's interesting because during the pandemic, it was such a roller coaster, with what was trending and what was happening in sponsorship. I mean, everybody was they were buying happy hours, and everybody get online at a happy hour. And then a couple months later, couldn't sell a happy hour. And then the happy hours came back when we thought the pandemic wasn't going away. And then they went away again. And it was all kinds of craziness. Now what I'm seeing is trending, and what I'm seeing as such a need right now, really kind of three things. Sponsors want engagement, thought leadership, and data. And data probably being not new, but the up and coming most important aspect.
Mhm.
Organizers really need to kind of loosen that hold they have on the attendee list. And I'm not saying name and contact, but I am saying company and title. A lot of organizations don't even want to give that out. And the challenge is that these sponsors are spending a lot of money, and they're saying, I can't market to anybody. And so that is a big hot button right now. And getting the data, I actually work with two organizations, one on the front end that helps bring attendees in and sponsors and utilizing their sponsor. And then on the back end, I work with an organization that provides sponsorship data that can include everything from as simple as session scans for that sponsor and who went in their booth, to as advanced as Mary Jo is sponsor A's client, and sponsor A has been trying to sell widget A to Mary Jo. And I can see every session that Mary Jo went to, and none of them had to do with widget A. I need to change my sales tactic and now sell her widget B, because that's what I know she's interested based on her behavior at the conference. We have all that data potential.
Yes.
And it's amazing. And so I think the organization, so there's so much competition right now, because the dollars for sponsorship is, it is flat, if at best. Mostly they've lost a lot of money. So the sponsors really have to pick what organization they go to and what their spend is. They're going to go to the ones that give them the attendee information. And again, I just mean company and title, and the data of, who's been there and who's been in their booth and who's gone to their session and all that information. I think those are the organizations that are going to win at the end.
I also think, to your other points about engagement, and then I'll ask you about thought leadership, there is so much that event organizers can do to facilitate engagement and make the show floor something that is not either but is inviting and centered, without it feeling like you're just there for you're just there to exchange business cards or lead scan.
Right.
So often they're either like shunted off to a corner, or you're forced through them in some sort of rat maze, or in ways that people, I think the attendee sees straight away, this is what you're doing to me, I don't like it.
Right.
And when you can find a way to make it more organic and, lively, and a place you want to be, this is where the food is served. This is where all of the social activity is happening.
Right. It's interesting. When I worked for Encore, it was PSAB when I worked for them.
Yeah.
They hired Janet Spursted, who has her degree in neuroscience of events, I believe it is,
Mhm.
or neuroscience of leadership. And she did a white paper on trade show behavior, all based on neuroscience. And so what happens in the brain when you walk into a trade show and it's people coming at you or booths coming at you, and what happens in your brain? It's really fascinating. And I think that organizations need to look at, how are they setting up the trade show? What is the opportunity to engage? And a lot of what I'm doing is I'm creating like other opportunities to engage, like one-on-one meetups, roundtable setups, meetings, like providing meeting rooms for the first, top 2 levels of sponsorship.
Absolutely.
So they can set up, they can have one-on-one engagement. A lot of my organizations don't want to do booths for the top level. They want to do lounges because that's, I work with a lot of the Fortune 100 groups as sponsors, and they want lounges. They want to be able to engage. They don't want a booth. They want to create an environment where they can have conversations with their customers.
Yeah, those are all really powerful examples of opportunities that can make things more compelling. I know for us, I'm very protective of, I think this is sort of shifting into the thought leadership prong of your point, where you have an opportunity, many different ways in which we can craft an opportunity to be part of program content that doesn't feel like the audience is being sold to. The last thing I want as a sponsor, like to be pitching up there. No one is winning when that's happening.
Right.
And then to be really cautious about the actual time, the time used. But I'm curious, like in terms of the opportunity for thought leadership, other ways, whether it's white papers or
it's white papers, but it's also, and I will say, I have to protect my sponsors a little bit and fight for them and tell you that I don't think that sponsors want to give a sales pitch either.
No, they don't. No, they don't want to do it. If they do, they don't know what they're doing, and that should be a big red flag. Yeah.
Right. They want to get up there with a customer. They want to be seen with a customer, and so, this great customer is with me, and I'm sitting, I'm watching potential other customers in the audience. They want to be with me too. So I think that that's a first thing, but I think there's other opportunities, like you said, white papers. There's, the theater on the expo floor. There's so much more you can be doing with that than we're doing, right? Even putting their sessions on the agenda. Because right now, many times the only time you know what's happening in that like spotlight theater is when you walk by it and there's a sign, ABC company speaking on whatever in 10 minutes. Like,
and it just happened and you missed it.
Right. Yes. Like, let's get those on the agenda. I mean, it offers everyone value. So there's just so much more you could be doing from a content standpoint.
There's also that when you have that opportunity to showcase a customer, the case study, or even do like a lightning round of pitches. Some people are truly there to discover and explore new opportunities. And that's absolutely a really beautiful opportunity yes, I do want to show up and hear what that company is going to say. It will let me know whether I do want to spend any time at their booth or not.
Yeah, there's an event marketing association that I sold all the sponsorship to, and we had something called the Tech Shootout, and it was a technology company had 6 minutes to get up and do a demo. That was in the keynote, and it was packed every year, and we've done it every year for like 20 years, and every year it's packed.
Yeah.
So people want to learn what's out there, what's trending, what's new.
Yeah, they do. They really do. And so I'm curious, before you started your company and in all the years that you've been in this industry, who mentored you? How did you learn? Where did you go when you were hungry for information?
Yeah, I think in the very very beginning, when I was really like in my late 20s or mid 20s, I think I learned from really bad mentors. I think I learned from, okay, I don't want to do that. I don't want to behave like that. When I lead people, I want to do this. And I learned that way. Yeah. And then I had some really great mentors, and they were men, they were women, they were younger, they were older, they were not in the industry. A lot of them were not in the industry, but I really tried to learn from everyone. Like I was on the board of an association. We had a keynote speaker from Microsoft. And afterwards, we all sat down for lunch, the whole group, and he was sitting next to me. And I just said to him, do you ever take on mentees? And he said, yeah. I said, I would love to learn from you. He has been one of my biggest supporters, my biggest advocates, the one of the people that I bounce a lot of my business questions off of. He's been amazing. And then there's two women in the industry that I would guess myself and every other woman in the events and hotel convention business would tell you were mentors as well. Just by watching their behavior and watching them move up the corporate ladder was Christine Duffy, who is now the CEO of Carnival, and Christy Hicks, who was head of sales for Hyatt Hotels. They were two women who really forged ahead, and I met them and I got to know them a little bit. And just by watching them, I thought, wow, I have a chance.
Wow.
There's a strong woman who are caring, and they have families, and they, all the things you want to be in leaders.
That too, like they have families, they have lives, they have not just sacrificed themselves at the altar of an industry for no, with no.
Right. And I worked with a lot of those women as well. And that was not what I wanted to do. Yeah. And I'm sure it worked out great for them, but I wanted to see leaders that had a little bit more well-rounded, because I like to do a lot of different activities and I wanted more. So it was really good for me to see them. And I believe, and this is something I believe so strongly, that we as women in the industry need to mentor other young women in the industry and really help them learn and grow. And at any given time, I'm mentoring 3 to 7 women.
Wow. And if you were telling somebody who was like that, wow, I mean, yes, I would love to have a mentor, but what does that even look like? And where would I start? And how would I ask? What would you share with them?
Well, I don't think there's like a prescription in it. So if I'm talking to a young woman who says to me, Meg, I want to find a mentor, I would say, keep your eyes and ears open and just watch. Like, I found this gentleman, he was a speaker at our session, and then I have mentors, like I said, that, one of them was my food and beverage director. He was amazing. And I liked his style. And when you see someone that you like and you want to emulate and you want to learn from them, then you raise your hand and say, hey, would you mentor me? And this is what I think I need, but I'm happy to have that conversation with you. And so after I got into it, I mean, I've been mentoring for a couple of years now, but in the beginning, it was just like, okay, what do we want to talk about today? And now it's a little bit more organized. I'm more structured with them. And the only thing I ask in return is that when it's their time, they pay it forward. And that is really important to me.
And what I'm also taking away from this and reflecting on in my own when I've been a mentee or a mentor, is it's one of the opportunities, if you're really relatively young or inexperienced in the industry, to practice managing up, like owning the responsibility for the relationship. Yes. It doesn't have to be scary, just like come with questions.
Right. What do you need help with now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's one woman who said, I don't really want a structured mentor program. I just want to be able to talk to someone about whatever's happening at the moment. And I said, great, we can do that. So we have a call and we meet monthly, and I say, so what's happening?
What's going
on? And that's
on?
all I say.
Yep.
And then she starts talking. And then, I offer my guidance or recommendation, and we talk through that. And it's just someone for her to bounce ideas off of, see if her behavior is appropriate, because she's young and she doesn't know. And when I say young, I don't mean age, I mean experience. She doesn't know if what her boss is doing is right in how she's being treated, or how she should have responded to something. Did I respond to that? Okay, I said this. she got mad at me for saying that. She have gotten mad at me? Just all of those type of things to be able to talk over.
I think you just described such a lovely way to be either like a sounding board or a
Right.
sage with like it's a low barrier to entry, it's low stakes. It's not like you need to go study this formula before you can
Right.
become a mentor or ask someone to be your mentor.
Right.
Often think that you might ask somebody and have them say, "Oh my gosh, wow, I'm so flattered. I don't know that I've ever done that before. How could I support you?" And you
Right.
just gave them a ready formula. Like, could we just talk once a month and I just tell you what is going on or what
Right.
I'm struggling with?
Or sometimes like this gentleman I keep referring to that from Microsoft, I just called him one day. He just said, yes, he'll mentor me. And then that was kind of it. And, the conversation went on. I followed up with an email saying, thank you so much. If you don't mind, I would love to be able to just contact you and ask your opinion about things when I have business questions. And he wrote right back and he said, Meg, I'm available when you need help. So the first thing that came up when I needed help, I emailed him and said, can I get on your schedule, 30 minutes on your schedule sometime in the next week or two? I have a business question for you. We set up a meeting. I had the conversation with him. He gave me some great advice. And that was probably 10, 15 years ago. He helped me with some of the questions I had about building my own business now. So you just kind of build that relationship and what is needed.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you ask someone to mentor you and they're not the right person, you can find another person.
Yes.
I'm not the right
Absolutely.
mentor for everybody. I'm
No.
not.
Yeah. Yeah. You can find another person. You will find another person.
Right.
And you can
Right.
thank them for the engagement and
Right.
step away.
Yeah.
We've been talking mostly, and before we were talking about mentorship, we were talking mostly about your path to phase forward and sponsorship. Tell me a little bit about Events GI and what you're doing with talent for our industry.
Yeah. So it came out of the pandemic, and the first year of the pandemic, all my friends were calling me, telling me that they got laid off, they got furloughed. It was every day, it felt like. I'm sure you experienced the same thing.
Mhm.
And then the next year, it was all the service organization friends saying, I don't know how we're going to ramp up. We don't have the people. We don't have anyone left. I don't know how we're going to do this. All the agencies, all the production companies, all that. And I just thought there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way to get people back to work. And so we came up with Events Gig, and it is an online platform to connect freelancers with organizations looking to hire freelancers. And I launched it at SEMA, the Corporate Event Marketing Association. And I will say I felt like the prettiest girl at the ball because there was such a need for it. There is such a need for it.
Yes.
I have over 500 freelancers in my site. Most of them are between 3 to 7 years experience. Most of them live in the event marketing world. These aren't the hourly like brand ambassador level. This is what we specialize in are the 3 to 7 year event marketer, project manager, project lead, digital strategist, that type of level.
Well, and
So
I would be one of those people fawning over you at the ball because it's such a no-brainer. And it's something we've been doing. Like, we're really resourceful. And you would think to succeed in this business, you have to be really resourceful. And we've gotten by on like word of mouth and who do you know? Or, wow, we just had that PA for this project in New York. And it turns out he's got a ton of experience. Let's make sure we tap him next time we need X, Y, Z. And now it's like, we are just graduating to a bigger scale at the same time that programs like Events Gig are coming online to save us from ourselves from being like, now we're doing a project in Milwaukee. Who do you know in Milwaukee?
Right. Well, and I'll tell you, here's the challenge. Organizations, their event budgets, the brands, their event budgets are flat. And so they are not getting to go ahead to hire anyone. And so, but they're being asked for, just as great, if not greater events that they put on the past, and they don't have the staff, and now it's digital too. So now you're talking about 2 events. And so they need help. So they're pushing that help down and asking the agencies to fill in. So now the agencies need to beef up, their people that they can hire. And
Yes.
so it's just, and we all know what happened. I mean, people left the business, people retired, people, so yeah, there's definitely a need. And we're putting a lot of people back to work, which is really great.
That's also so rewarding.
Yeah.
And I think you are speaking to what seems to me like at least the 2023 theme is do more with less for our clients. And,
Right.
fewer staff, fewer dollars, more event than has ever been asked of you before.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think, and this is coming from a supplier.
Mhm.
I think it has never been harder to be an event planner, event marketer, meeting planner. I just don't, I think that, they're dealing with staffing talent issues, right? Not having the right people. Now that there's digital in the mix, maybe they don't have the right staff, they don't have enough staff, that, all of that. And then add that to the fact that attendees aren't signing up for conferences until, very short term. What is it, like 3 or 4 weeks in advance? So now they're trying to build these conferences over a couple months, not knowing what their budget's going to end up being because attendees aren't
Absolutely.
signing up.
Mhm.
And it's just craziness.
It is
And
that
so,
like continuously deferred buyer decision that happens. And I mean, I am that buyer. Like I just finally purchased my ticket to a conference I've been planning to attend, that's in less than a month.
right,
I am that
right,
person, and
right,
we all are, and or still learning how to go back out in the world, like
right.
still like, strengthening that muscle that got so weakened or atrophied from,
Yeah,
during COVID. It is intensely challenging. And I'll add one more, at least in the tech industry here in the Bay Area, we're so concentrated that it's where I see a lot of what is challenging C-suite behavior on about the level of scrutiny and unrealistic expectations. If you're an
absolutely.
event in like the first 2 or 3 years of growth, there's a mistake in understanding by the executive team, like, oh, this is going to be, I always love like a hockey stick, like, right, if we had 200 people this year, we're going to have 400 people next year, and then 1,000,
Right.
and then 10,000. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's not software. It's not
Right.
software. It doesn't work like that.
It's very different. Yeah. And I will tell you, sponsors are now starting to sign up very late in the game.
Yes.
So where it was 6 to 9 months, now it's 3 months.
And what do you
And
think what do you think has made that cycle so tight? Besides limited resources, this is about deciding where to place them. How do you think that's?
yeah, I think it is limited resources and trying to figure out where they're going to put their money. But I also think it's the same thing with attendance. That fear. There's just that in the back of our mind, that little bit of fear that we're going to end up, not going, not having the event, whatever it is.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I forgot how to, I mean, it's funny because this is what I do for a living, but truly felt like I forgot how to plan a vacation that happens more than 8 weeks from now.
Right.
How to think like, oh, or am I going home this holiday season? Am I going home to my family or my in-laws family?
Right.
It's just that same limited, challenged thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I just think it's so hard for event planners right now because what happens is they're planning this event. The attendees are not, they're coming in slow, drips and drabs. So now they're pulling back from their agencies, the production, they're pulling back, all the niceties that happened at the conference. They're pulling back on, branding and signage and all of this. And then all of a sudden they get hit and the attendance at the end of the day is showing up. But they're not showing up until, a month or 2 months in advance. So now the event planners are saying to the production, bring this all back. We need more. We want this more. We want the signage with the branding. And the agencies are saying, I don't have the people now to manage this.
Too late to execute.
Right. Or a supply chain issue. I can't get
Yes.
that back.
I cannot get those fancier name badges and lanyards for you. It turned out I used to be able to do it in 3 days, and now it's 3 months if you want that. Yeah.
Right.
Or
it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to get it expedited.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's just, and I will say it, and I'm going to say it on air. The CMOs are not understanding.
No,
They're just not. They're not listening. They're not paying attention, or they don't care. I don't know, but they're not listening.
Yeah.
They're
Or
not-
they're
they don't
dealing with
get it.
so many other challenges that we don't see every day that they,
Yeah.
limited empathy to go around.
Right.
Really challenging. Yeah. These are all real. I think then the knock-on effect is burnout. And then again, fewer people to come back into the workforce and service this industry.
Well, and that's the other thing. So a lot of the senior level planners and event marketers have left the industry.
Mhm.
And so a lot of younger, and I don't mean age, I mean experience, people have taken those positions, and they don't know. They don't know how to build a larger event. And so that's part of the challenge as well. So we don't know how to build a budget, don't know how to do a lot of those details.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's
Yeah.
very challenging right now out there.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, well, I think there are opportunities inside all of these challenges, and you're tapping some of them, and we
Right.
are too. It remains one of those, like, for us, it's constantly like practice self-care, because
Right.
this is what it looks like now.
Dragon boater right here.
Exactly. We've taken to asking our team, it's part of our like stages, how we define success in an event. We ask our team after a project, like, what did you do afterwards to take care of yourself? What did the client
Right.
do to take care of herself? Like, did you ask her? What have you heard back? Okay, let's call that success. Like, that's part.
Yeah.
I think that's essential. We want to impart that to them.
We were,
Yeah.
I was just on site in Vegas at an MGM property, and we all have the war room, right? And the war room, we were sitting there one day, and all of a sudden this beautiful tray was wheeled in of hot chocolate, and make your own hot chocolate with 10 different toppings and all that the hotel just brought in for us.
Oh,
As
love that.
just like a nice thing, to say thank you for the business or whatever. And just those little moments mean so much now,
Oh,
you
they
know,
really do. Yes, they really do. And
it,
them.
it probably cost the hotel less than $100.
Right.
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 But it meant so much to, there was probably 50 of us there.
And you've seen every attempt at winning you over in hospitality that there is. And that was memorable to you, Meg. So that's
Right.
huge. That's
Right.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure talking with you. And
Thank you
I
so
want to make
much.
sure you get a chance to say where folks can find your two enterprises
Yes.
or find you.
Yes, thank you. You can find me at meg@phaseforward.com, and it's FAZEFWD, or at meg@eventsgig.com, which is EVENTSGIG.
And you can therefore also figure out her URLs for those two
Yes.
companies.
And LinkedIn.
That's great. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Meg. This has been great.
Thank you, Paige. I appreciate the time.
Thanks for listening to the Kennedy Events Podcast. Come back next time and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.